Right, folks, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Common Sense with me, Mike Omni. It's going to be a good one today, although the backdrop is a lot of breaking news, death related. Of course, we just heard about Prince Philip's death. He's died at the age of 99. Buckingham Palace have announced. They've also announced that folks shouldn't leave flowers because of coronavirus. Coronavirus, let's not forget, that's still on the rampage. Um, and I had mixed feelings about this. Of course, I'm sad because someone died, but in fact, let's just pay tribute first. Boris Johnson was first to pay, one of the first to pay tribute. He said that Prince Philip inspired the lives of countless young people. It's true. I actually was meant to do the Duke of Edinburgh Award. I am a bit salty because I was kicked off it because apparently I was a danger to health and safety. Because when we went out in the woods, I just wasn't. I was a bit of a crazy kid. So I got kicked off it, but I still recognize how good it is, and I think for a lot of people, they remember him for that. They remember him. Unfortunately, part of his legacy are also gaffes or numerous things he said about people from other races that let's just say weren't too tactful. The Archbishop of Canterbury paid tribute as well, as did the Prince of Wales, as did many leaders around the world. Now, their conversations been had, of course, about the kind of funeral he's going to have. He's declined to have a state funeral, and so just Saturday, so a few days ago, we're going to see a 41 gun salute take place in London, in Edinburgh, in Cardiff, in Belfast, and in Gibraltar as well. So we'll wait to see that. Now, slight aside, right? I was thinking, how long will it take the mainstream media to connect this to Harry and Meghan? Now, I thought it would take 3 hours. I was wrong. It took 2 hours for the Daily Mail to tweet out how Prince Philip's life was marred by Harry, and I thought, boring, not interested. So that story's there. Of course, we had famous rapper and icon DMX die too. Folks, if you want to follow these stories, you can head over to tcsnetwork.co.uk because they're big stories, and I want to give them proper time. But we're also going to be talking with someone today who I want to get onto really quickly because it's going to be a really interesting conversation. And he's a poet, an author, a podcaster, and just all round people's champion. It's hard to introduce people like this because they do so many different things. So you can't just say he's a writer because he's not. That's just like a tiny bit of who he is. But why don't we hear from Nego True, who is my guest today? Brother, how do you do?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm great, man. Listen, I said there, it's hard to know how to introduce people. Like, how do you when you're at a dinner party and people go, what do you do? What do you say?
If I'm honest, I just picked the most relevant craft. So, like when I first started, because like as well as spoken word, obviously I make music, I write, whatever. So I always remember, like for instance, if I'd be like around an older generation or etc. I was very aware that if I said spoken word or author, it brought about more respect than if I said I rap. Whereas when I'm around my friends, if I'm transparent, I'm a fraud. It just depends on where I am. That's what I'll.
I actually resonate with that because I'm somewhat similar. When folks go, it's actually the older I get, the more annoying it gets because when you're young, it's cool to do lots of different things. Folks are kind of impressed by it. They're like, you're only 17, and you do all these. When you get older, people kind of like pick one.
Yeah.
So have you felt that pressure? And I know we're getting deep so quickly. Like,
okay.
How do you balance your life? Now, have you felt that pressure, and how do you navigate it?
I think it's gonna sound strange, but I think the blessed thing for me is like I kind of do at least all right in just about everything I'm involved in, but I'm very aware that like there's certain perceptive expiry dates for certain things, if that makes sense. Like there's a certain time frame that if you haven't reached a certain level, there's a perception that you should throw it all away. And if I'm transparent, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm quite lucky that the streaming era came in because I guess growing up, it was like, there could only be one person at the top, or maybe five. And now we're in a life where I guess there's hundreds of kids out there making probably not the best, but decent money from their craft if they do anything music related, and then it then trickles into like books, etc. So, for instance, being an author, I don't need to be under a publication. I can do independent. I do attribute part of that to the streaming era in general, because people have become, as they call it, the microwave generation, and it sort of makes things more accessible, and it means you can sort of build a career off of how you want to do things. So I kind of got like got lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the pressure. I do.
No, we're all very lucky. I think about this frequently, about how I don't think, and I'm a Christian, so I think kind of God predestined this, right? But I don't think I could live in any other time than now.
Oh, you're a Calvinist.
I am, sir.
That's
but I only use that term because it's helpful in academic settings for discussion. I don't have a poster. For folks who are listening, wondering what that is, it's just a loose grouping, if you like, of some Christians. But like I said, I don't see myself, or I can't see myself living in any other period of history other than now, because I am truly a millennial in terms of being digital savvy, streams of income online, all that kind of stuff. Right? I can't imagine. But one thing you said that's so interesting to me, and I was reading about this. I forgot. I think it was an article. I don't remember by who, and it was just only last week, about this kind of the pressure right now, being in this millennial generation, for want of a better term, to turn everything we do into a kind of stream of income, and to kind of say, so let's say you're a rapper, and you're 29, and perhaps it's not where you thought it will be. The notion that you have to drop it and never do it again because it's not making money, it's kind of like, hold on, well, why can't you just have a hobby? What happened to hobbies? Just things you did, you enjoyed, and you went home.
Yeah, I have a friend named Caleb, right? And he does nothing creative, right? And he genuinely gets frustrated when people are like, say he does something and they're like, oh, you should turn that into a career or whatever. Partly also because he earns good money doing what he does already, but also because in his head he embodies, as a friend, he's the friend that I would say more than any of my friends embodies the word freedom. So he's not someone like, and you got to remember, once you turn these things into money makers, of course the money is great, but you're now a worker. As much as you're self-employed, you're now a worker for the consumer, and that could impact your creative. It could turn it from your hobby to, like, for instance, I'll be transparent. When I first started, I was first doing well from just being honest. If I'm transparent, just being honest. But part of it was because I didn't think anyone was watching. So to me, it was like, what I'm literally saying is the things I would say in my bedroom if no one was looking. And then it got to a stage where everyone's watching. And then now they're basing my authenticity on their validation. So now it's like, for instance, I remember saying to someone, like, I had a line about doing well financially, and I saw a comment was it my YouTube or Link Up, one of the two, saying, he changed. And I'm thinking, I've been talking about my financial status from the beginning. It's better. Like, you want me to just pretend I'm like, no, I'm not there anymore. Like, so yeah, like if there are things you love, there's so many things I think you should just keep to yourself, just for sanity reasons as well, man.
Yeah, I know folks are probably thinking, Mike, this is not a wellness podcast, but it does apply to everybody. It applies to everybody. It applies to everybody. I think, especially young people, there is a incessant pressure to turn everything into, and I guess I don't want to get all Marxist and us, but it's the capitalist industrialist complex we're living that takes everything, extrapolates from it, the marketable value and the commodity, and tries to sell it. But there are some things that are just meant to be life-giving on the side, things that you do that show, allow you to explore a different side of yourself. I mean, you brought us onto rap, and obviously, I said at the start, a rap legend, DMX. I didn't want to say too much about it because I know, Affair, you told me he's a hero of yours, or legend rather. How do you remember DMX?
it's interesting. So I technically only have sort of like 3 stages of DMX's life from memory. Like if I was to be asked up front, obviously if someone triggered other memories, fair. But like when I was a kid, I was shown what's that video when he's in the street? I think it's a Rough Riders anthem. Yeah.
Okay.
And there was like an alternate, so there was the official video, which was like, great cameras and and there was this really terrible quality video where it's like him, his friend, like they're just all in the streets, like sort of motorbikes around them, that was the first thing that sort of made me want to do like videos with my friends, like because I was watching it like just like raw, you could just take over your road like that. That's crazy. And I remember I went to the high road and I was like, yo, you like what me and my friends would shoot music videos of like other people's songs and that, because we didn't obviously make songs. So I had that and sort of that energetic music, and then that time when he got saved, it was strange but interesting. And sort of it was inspiring for me because that was round about when I first sort of started learning about Christianity, and
Yeah.
I didn't really grow up with that stuff. So it was like, oh, I'm learning about it. I looked to the left and the guy that I was listening to as a kid is also in it. And I was like, oh, right, and it was quite intriguing. And then I guess sadly, obviously the alcohol addiction, and what he went through in his latter years, and it was interesting on 2 parts, because it was sad to see, you see people as almost untouchable, heroic sort of,
Yeah.
and then you sort of see them in that state. But it's also interesting because when he would stop, which he would do in a lot, like he would sort of take his time with things, there seemed to be a lot of wisdom he was able to impart. So yeah, it was just interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I can resonate with that because I grew up too listening to DMX. I stopped at some stage, but I remember hearing once. So like I have a long history in music. Like I've been playing since I was 13, well younger even 11, 12, all sorts of different things. And I remember an uncle telling me super young once. He was like, what did he say? He said artistry is giving people license to watch you grow publicly. And he said that it says that's true artistry. And if I take that, I think DMX, he really exemplified that. Like he was so transparent with his life, and he gave us all like the license to watch him literally navigate some ridiculously low moments, high moments, mental health, wins, losses, mistakes. I mean, even when he went on Inyala, Fix My Life, right? And he was trying to mend his relationship with his child. I'm like, we have to understand, like, public, because some people are like, oh, it was messy. I'm like, yeah, you could see it through that lens, or you can see it through the lens of a lot of people live vicariously through these artists. So when you have artists like that who offer up their life to the public and say that, watch me navigate like the complexities of my life, I can't imagine the millions of people who literally watched him go through these moments and found solace, found healing, watched him pray on Instagram, like all these different things he did. I don't think we recognize enough. I mean, now we live in this hyper, everyone's a creator now. Talk about it, how TikTok has literally made everybody like everybody needs to create something. We went from kind of watching each other's live, whatever, to now everyone's trying to market something, sell something, create something. And so maybe now people don't really understand the value of it. But DMX was in a time where, celebrities were often very coy with their lives. They would show you a bit and then disappear and then show you a bit. But he was like, watch everything. And for me, that's true artistry. So that's how I choose to remember him. But yeah, that's just a random delve into DMX's into DMX.
Quick question: did you stop listening to him because of the concept of secular music, or just you just?
Probably a mixture of things. If I'm honest, there was a period where. And folks who aren't Christians won't get the reference, but there was a period when I was when I was young in church, and one of the youth pastors, came in one day, smiling ear to ear because he was like, "I got something," and we were like, "Oh, here we go. What is it?"
That
And he's like,
truth about
"The truth behind the truth behind hip hop."
Yes.
So he was like, "Everybody, you have to watch this video." And essentially, what he had found was a video exposing like the Illuminati and all the stuff that happens in hip hop. Because I was young, this was like to me. I was like, "What?" I started looking for triangles everywhere, cereal boxes, music music videos. I was like,
you reverse that song and play it like 7 times to the left. That's where he's saying.
so that's probably when I, not so much DMX, but everybody, I kind of stopped listening to everybody. But moving on, you grow up and you want musicians that talk about your life. Sorry, things you can relate to, I guess. And so after a while, I couldn't really relate to him. And I've always been a jazz head, anyways. I was gonna say, like, folks might be thinking, "Oh, here's another poet Michael's speaking to." But you're not just any poet, because not only do you tap into, stuff again that people can relate to, that people go through, like you've also been wildly successful. I read somewhere that you've got over 2.5 million views on YouTube. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of alright, isn't it? I didn't even think
Yeah,
about
it's decent. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's quite cool. Yeah, I don't even know how to caveat from that. So like I think essentially with regards to my craft and my career, I've literally goes back to what you said. Is there echo?
No, it's I can hear you okay.
Okay. Would it be better if I put my headphones on? Because it sounds like there's an echo.
That might be a bit better. I know that sometimes makes things better, but I can hear you okay.
Okay. No, apologies. I just don't want to ruin the quality because I can hear echo coming back. One second.
It's okay. It's okay. We like quality. We like excellence. So, it's all good. But I was reading, like I said, 2.5 million views. You've had a best-selling book. I mean, you're not just having a go, are you? Like you're generally making impact, and you've got a lot of eyes who are watching what you do. So I guess the question is, just before you jump in, like, how do you think about your artistry? Now how do you navigate all of that? Okay, now you're muted. So you're on mute. You're on mute. You gotta tap the mute button. There you go.
We in.
But now I think you need to. I love how we're doing this for live. You've got to check to make sure. You got to check to make sure your audio input is your mic and not your headphones.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
Are we in? Yeah, we in. We in. We good. We good.
Superb. Right. So the question, just to get you back in, you're back in the room. How do you navigate your artistry, man?
Yeah, I guess it goes back to what you said about DMX, essentially, like growing up in I guess giving people the permission to sort of use your life as a reference point. A lot of especially my most popular videos, are probably just my lowest or highest moments, just my most extreme moments in that stage of my life and career. So I've always said, like, I never want to get to the stage where I'm rapping about rapping or writing about writing. And that's, when people sort of make whole songs about how they're better than everyone. Don't get me wrong, that that can still be great music, but my thing's essentially a diary, man. I'm essentially telling people where I've been and how life is, and I try to give, obviously, the more sort of popular I became, I tried to give more distance between songs and reality, because I don't want to be talking about something and then people are discussing with me and I haven't dealt with it. So like my last project was about heartbreak, and so many people resonated with that, but even that was an accident. Like I think a lot of my career is, if I'm honest, there wasn't even it was such an accident. I didn't even put a video out for the project. I just here have an album, and it was essentially like I was working on an album thinking I needed to do all the things that my audience wanted me to do, but to be transparent, I was heartbroken at the same time, and I was trying to go for a breakup. So every time I'm going into the booth, like I remember that I was sent a instrumental, and the producer was like, "Yeah, make the song about money." Song ended up being about heartbreak. Every single song I was making was just about the girl or the situation. And without even turning around, I just noticed, oh, right, I got 13 songs on Heartbreak. Let me just give it to them. And then that ended up being very successful for myself. And it's quite interesting because the one thing you have to do as a creative is almost not become a slave, for lack of a better term, to the consumer, but at the same time you have to serve them. So by that, what I mean is, it sounds so bad to say, but I'm gonna be transparent. Your audience don't know what they want. Like they always say they do, and they want you to make this. They're lying to you. Even me as a consumer, I'm a liar. Yeah. I tell you that because if J. Cole came up to me and asked me what he should make, I would instruct him about some deep nonsense.
Yeah.
But my entire day is spent listening to magazine, like to pop music, to etc etc etc. The consumer tends to not know what they want until you present it to them in either a very good fashion or very bad. They can only tell you what they don't want. That's it. And once you've delivered it, so I guess that's how I've sort of done my craft, and a lot of my career, whether it be my book, my writing, etc. I'm talking to someone. So what tends to happen is I was raised in an area where I guess like a lot of badness happens and etc etc. But obviously great things, but just a community-based area. And I'll be transparent. My friends, not even myself at a majority stage of my life, are the brightest people. So we need to communicate certain things. So I remember even like I used to make poems about politics, and people would think, oh, you're trying to help the young people. I'm trying to help my friends. Like I'm writing this so that they can get a better understanding and picture this. And I'm just blessed that I guess it translates to more people.
Yeah. One of the things you've written, of course, is the jumper you're sporting right now. My history is more than slavery. Who are you writing to when you wrote that? So this is a book you've written. Is it still available? Can folks still grab it?
Yeah. Still a bestseller.
Cool.
Still.
So it's done, sold out. Folks can still get it. When you wrote it, who were you writing to?
That's a very good question. I give the safe answer and not the truth. But
Whoa! We want the truth here. This is that you're in the hot seat. We want the truth.
The truth is, it was written to my future offspring. That's the truth. It was written to my future offspring, so my future child. But also inspired by, I guess, what you'd say, lack of knowledge. I don't get involved in politics on Twitter or debates and whatever. I just watch people being stupid and I laugh and I send it to the group chat. And I make my mistakes in the group chat. See what I'm saying? I always say to my friends, "Ooh, if I put that out there," because there's many a time a dialogue will come up and I will say something in a group chat. I got a True Talks group chat with the boys and the girls, and 20 minutes later, someone's getting dragged for literally word for word what I've just thought, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, raw. Okay, I've learned.
I think more people need that group chat.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's a blessing. But yeah, so it was a time when it's been years in the making, and I guess I'd watched certain things and certain perceptions, and I'm Zimbabwean myself, so I've always had an interest in my country's history at first, but then it became I guess as a kid, people would always sort of compare your reality to those of what you may call the more mainstream countries, so Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, etc.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I guess it birthed a blessing, because the more I'd get, so for instance, the jokes would run, you eat fufu, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, or you wear da 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 or whatever, and I'm like, I don't know what these things are, because they're not realities in my country. So essentially it sort of opened up the more the jokes came or whatever, it opened up my reality to, okay, what are these other cultures?
Yeah.
Because if I was surrounded by like another few hundred Zimbabweans, I'd probably be even more ignorant, because if you knew what I was like in school, I was walking around with Zimbabwean flag as if to say it was the biggest country in the world, because of the way I was taught about it. In my head, I thought, right, you might as well just bow down. You know what I'm saying? I'm Zim. But it made me study it more, and I guess the more ignorance I'd see about it was the more I'd want to understand it. And it was a color. was actually a Carla. A
Oh.
Carla. I always say people can. It's very important to know when you've been schooled. It's so important. So, in essentially, what used to happen was whenever I think of a cool tweet, I'd always think, "Oh, it could be a song title or whatever, whatever." So I was about to. It was Black History Month one year. I was about to tweet "My history is more than slavery." I was like, "That sounds cold." So I thought, let me call a Carla, because we'd been around each other a few times. Let me call him and get him on a song called "My history is more than slavery." So I called him, and he was like, "Yeah, man, that sounds like a great idea." He starts ringing off a bunch of things in history that I was like, "What are you, what are you talking about?" I had no clue what he was talking about. And I thought I was very well read in I guess African history. And the more he spoke was the more I was like, "This is so important for people to know." And he sort of directed me sort of reading wise and sort of where to study and etc. And the more I studied was the more I wanted to, I guess, give that information to the people that needed it. And the book itself is addressed to my future son slash daughter. Apology if am I speaking too much?
No, it's a podcast where you're the
Oh,
guest. This
yeah,
is
yeah,
your
right.
place to share.
So, and the it's essentially written to my future son slash daughter, the entire book. So from start to finish, I've addressed the child as Ngola, which is uh it's an Angolan term or word for ruler, but it used to mean king. But after a lady called Nzinga took it over and was just punching up the Portuguese, and they were like, "Cool, we can't just use this for king. This is just for ruler now." So to me, it was a sort of perfect title rather than name to give. Because even in the book,
Mm.
I say I can't give you the name yet. So I'm gonna title you Angola, and the book essentially is 9 chapters, one chapter for every month, different topics. So sort of getting into money and giving my kid advice, but within it, there's information on our history that
Mm.
they're sort of accidentally learning. So, for instance, if I'm giving them advice on money, I'm speaking about sort of saving circles, and I speak about sort of I guess resources in South Africa, etc., and give these comparisons that you sort of read without breaking a sweat. But by the end of it, you'll be like, "Oh wow, I'm aware that there's diamonds in Zimbabwe. I'm aware of how much oil Nigeria contribute to the
Yeah,
global economy. I'm aware of accidentally almost." And at the end of it, there's a sort of letter from the people that are going to be the actual sort of uncles and aunties. So like real people, like for instance, you've had Disu on the pod.
yeah.
Disu has a letter at the end of the money chapter with Bola. Or Zraya has a chapter at the end, a letter at the end of the chapter about love, or like people that are actually going to be part of my yeah, my
Your kid's life, their future uncle. That's a
yeah.
really neat concept, man. I really like that. I mean, I resonate with the title. I can tell. I mean, it's good that you know you're friends with the Carla, or you folks work together, because I mean he has a similar thing you have, which is it's that he's such a good speaker. You can listen to them speak forever. Literally, you can just sit down and go and just listen, right? I think poets have that. They have a kind of that they're good at speaking such that they sometimes, well, not all of them, I should say, but most cut the fluff off. So when they speak, they're straight to the point, they're succinct, they're directional. I like listening to Akala. I really did. I don't agree on everything. Same as Dr. Kendi Andrews, who we've had at an event. Again, wonderful contributors, but not I don't agree with everything. Let me actually get to something I think we may disagree on.
Ooh, let's go.
It's cool. No, it's not. Well, we may actually agree, because I was thinking about it this morning, because Twitter is such a weird place, right? And I say that not to be those people, oh, tech is bad. It's not that. It's more so, I remember seeing the trailer to a movie, no, a series on Amazon called Them, and it's this this story essentially of a black family who moved from North Carolina, I believe, into like a white neighborhood, and they basically go through lots of pressure and abuse and stuff like that by virtue of being black, racism essentially. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, not another race film! I'm so tired. Let's stop these films about race. Can we just stop this film about kind of racism?" Blah 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 blah. People started screenshotting the fact that the director's white and so on and so forth, and like, we don't want anymore, don't anymore. And I kind of thought, hold on, you don't want any more. But the notion that nobody should have any more, for me, it's a bit warped. So I get that my history is more than slavery. Of course it is. And we need a diversity of films. But to say that we should not have any more slavery films, quote unquote, films about slavery, I should say, slavery film sounds weird. I kind of found that a bit hard to agree with, because I thought, okay, maybe you're educated and maybe you saw 12 Years a Slave and that did it for you.
Yeah.
But so are you saying that 16-year-olds have to go through exactly the same process you went through, and they should have nothing that's kind of fitting for their generation because you're tired of seeing them? What do you think about films, slavery films, and stuff like that?
The maddest thing is, I was kind of hoping we was disagreed, but I don't so far.
No,
I don't. I don't. I think people speak, like, for instance, even in my book, My History is More Than Slavery, there were people that came up to me like, "Yeah, man, I'm sick of hearing about Martin Luther." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! I didn't. That's not what I meant." Like, I literally give like an acknowledgement at the very start of the book. Like, these things are very important. I just felt like text-wise, there wasn't enough relevant. So the information is out there. I just felt there wasn't enough relevant sort of ways of people translating these things. So, for instance, if a new genre comes around and someone says they want to make a song about our history, I think, right, that's sick. You know what I'm saying? Translate it, because that's how generations work. First, it was word of mouth. People started writing, people started recording, people started filming, etc., etc. I do think people are entitled on social media. I can understand the basis, because I guess they want more balance. But when you go on Netflix, you go on Amazon, you go on YouTube, there's quite a lot of different black content, like different. And I'm not saying it matches up with the white counterparts. I definitely hope that there was way more variety, but I think there's way more than people give credit for. And I think a lot of people base things on their own circle, and I think that's social media in general. So they're like, "Oh, I've only seen the trailers for these slave movies. I haven't seen any black comedies, black love films, black da 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 da." And it's like, that doesn't make it a reality. You just haven't looked.
That's literally just your circle.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was them, but there was a recent movie that came out. I don't want to be wrong, so I'll research it while we're talking and pull it up. But I do remember there was drama about a show, and someone made a tweet that all the writers are white or something like that. And then I googled it. It took me like 10 seconds to Google, and I think it was like 70% of the writers were black. And I was like, how does this happen? Like, why has this got like 1,000 retweets? Like, I don't like the Google it wasn't like I didn't have to write a password. It wasn't no deep. It was like the first two links. Do you get what I'm saying? I was confused. I was like, raw, like, I guess because it sounds striking. Do you know? I think what happens on social media, people have sort of I don't want to say any of them because they'll kill me, but people have sort of taglines or things that are relevant towards one thing, right?
Yeah.
Like this should stop happening or this should happen, and they apply it to all. So yeah, that's not something we disagree on, but hopefully we find something we do disagree on.
Yeah, I need to search deeper because this one was quite important to me, because I think it's in keeping with what you're saying, is that our history, black history, is more than slavery.
Yeah,
true, but people still need to understand what slavery is. I guess it's probably where we're going with this, because I think about young people, and I've got a younger brother.
Yeah.
But I think about people even younger than him, 16, 15, 14, whatever it is. And I think the assumption that they're just woke and they know everything there is to know is just not true. No, this is kind of an aside, but so there's currently turmoil happening in Northern Ireland. We've had 7 consecutive days of rioting and looting and lots of issues there over the border. You know, there's a whole Protestant Catholic divide. We get the gist. And I was with a younger brother of mine. He's only 21 or 22 or something. And I was telling him, telling him about the riots, and he was like, "It's like I don't know anything about Northern Ireland." And I was like, "No, come on, Northern Ireland." He's like, we never talked about it ever.
Facts.
And I thought, wow.
That's facts. It's facts. But Britain does have a history of, or England does have a history of not talking about the places it violated. But
literally, just there's whole black holes in people's, like, I think so. I worked for the what do you call it now? I was a UK young ambassador to Europe for like 18 months, and that's when
anything you haven't done.
That's when I think I actually learned about the UK. So I was like, oh, this is Scotland's history. Oh, Wales has a whole thing going on. Because when you were young, you literally, I grew up in Southeast London. So in my head, like Woolwich was between Woolwich and Gillingham was the bandwidth of my knowledge.
Look, this is an interesting thing. I was literally writing this morning, I wrote, the heritage of Britain is built on perception rather than reflection. And by that, what I meant was a lot of the history that I was taught, I can speak for myself. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what other people were getting in school. But all the history I was taught, England was just always the hero. It was to the point that I would question my friends for their stances on England. Wait. Did you see what they did in... Then I guess the more you read and the more you study, you're like, okay, cool. There were heroic moments, but these men were getting badded up. A massive chunk of their history is robbery and murder. They celebrate the strangest things. They celebrate child traffickers. They got statues of them all around the country. But it's quite interesting because the perception that they give of these things, you'll never label those things that way. And I think that was even my thinking when I was making the book, that it was sort of like there was an element of my history that I felt or black history that I felt wasn't taught, essentially. And the others, as I agree with you completely, the others are as important. Slavery, I'll never pretend slavery wasn't an important factor, or the civil rights movement. But this, like, the rest is there as well. So I guess sometimes when people have heard more than the implications or the assumptions behind it is, I'm saying, almost better than. When my thought process behind it is, we have these elements of history that you're taught in school with this sort of remixed twist that sort of, Britain, because they always tell the part about, Britain stopped slavery at a certain stage, and they even argue that Britain are sort of the gatekeepers to stopping slavery, like as if to say, like, they just stepped in and was like, hey guys, this is bad. It's like, the more you even look into it, they didn't even stop it when they said they stopped it, and they literally burnt all the fire. Anyways, let's not even get into that. But
I mean, you're right about perception, because I do feel sorry for Brits in some regard, because it was easy for Britain to ignore and nominal Brits who lived in the UK to ignore what was happening, because slavery here happened on the islands. Britain went away, whereas America, it was right in the middle, in the White House itself. You had slaves building that place, whereas here you had different territories where the dirty work would happen. And then in the UK, what you had was folks in Windrush come in to help build up the motherland. That's the kind of that's the propaganda that was put out. Now what someone listened to me, I go, oh, hold on, Mike, these child traffickers that Nego speaking about, it's they have a marred history. It's complicated. No one's wholly good and no one's wholly bad. And I agree with that. I mean, we were talking about Christianity. Now, Martin Luther, who we all quote, Calvin, who some people literally have tattooed on their chest. These are people who I couldn't for the life of me say they were wholly good. Of course they weren't. They were depraved men that did all sorts of craziness, and folks who kept slaves but somehow campaigned to end slavery. And that's the kind of complexity, if you like, of people. Now, with everything you've said, though, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm tired of giving this thing airtime. But I think it would be interesting to get your perspective. So when you saw the race report,
wait, can I quickly disagree?
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Yes. Let's go back. Tell me why I'm wrong.
No, I just don't think they're comparable figures. I definitely think.
Oh, Calvin and
Oh no, I thought you said Martin Luther.
Oh no. I'm not Martin Luther King.
Oh,
Martin Luther, the reformer, the Christian.
Okay. My apologies.
Sorry, yeah, I should be. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about black stuff. I should definitely. I should clarify. I mean, Martin Luther, the reformer.
Oh yeah, no. Like if we even if we do look at these figures, like if someone was like, oh, they're not perfect, it's like, yeah, I think I can agree that someone's not perfect, and then I can also think that someone's like a slave trader. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It's like, whoa, there. So I get why people would say that. You know, people are very protective of these figures, and there's always this reasoning given that, you know, it was a different time back then, etc. And it was a different time back then. But I think if you accept it's a different time back then, well, not you. This isn't a disagreement to you. So the hypothetical figure. If they accept there's a different time, then they have to accept that that time was made okay by Britain being racist at the time. Are they racist now?
Do you ever think, right, before you get into the race report, do you ever think, looking forward, what do you think the future generation will look back at us over and go, it was a different time. It was a different time back then.
I think there's a lot of things.
Like your future offspring, what do you think he'll look back and go, no, it was a different time back then?
No, it's gonna sound weird. I think there's a lot of things that people see as positive right now, that in the future they'll look back at.
It's very ominous.
I do.
I'm looking forward to that, because obviously one of the biggest criticisms of our generation too is this notion that we think we've smashed it. I say this every week. It's like we think we've arrived and we're the most enlightened of all time and things, and you know, we're the most.
Can I add to that? Sorry, I'm sorry. So one of the things I've worked in my life is safeguarding, right? And I find that so important, right? And I think the interesting thing about social media is it restarts life. So by that, what I mean is there's now law and order, regulations don't exist, right? So in everyone's mind, whatever, you just sort of handle things how they think is best, and everything's based on emotion on social media. So essentially, it feels good to do this, so this is how we're going to do it. For instance, if you have a moment from 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we're going to get you out of the woodwork. Oh, someone I like has a moment from 10 years ago. Well, we have to then take into consideration the nuances. It's because people are figuring things out, and that's okay. People figure things out, but people's livelihoods are going while people are figuring things out. So for instance, a basic thing in safeguarding, right? So as I work I work safeguarding. When I see certain things within cancel culture, this whole notion of, you know, put everyone's name out and some of the reasons you don't do that in safeguarding is to protect the victim. That's how things work. Now, I fully understand in certain cases and certain notions, people feel like it's impossible to not address these things publicly, and that's more than fair. But I do think there's a lot of things that people are doing, not just safeguarding wires, just instructionally, that are just based on emotions and based off the concept that so even if we take it away from sort of the cancel culture and we just talk about other things, people are just basing it on, yeah, but you're happy and it's legal, and it's like, okay, that's not how life works.
Of course not.
Like things still have an impact even if it makes you happy, and I do think it's actually making people less considerate.
Big time. Charity and grace don't work, don't hit, don't slap as well as they should online. They just don't.
Yes, I'm sorry. I saw yesterday. Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know when this is going out, so I'll say I saw one time. This girl, she was, and that's another thing. Social media removes ages, so people are going to war with 16-year-olds, not knowing 25-year-olds, 42-year-olds. People that may have learning difficulties, etc. These things aren't factored in.
You're so right. It happened on Clubhouse, bro. When when it was actually with a friend of mine. We were on Clubhouse debating something like, I don't know, socialism, or the world should be socialist or whatever it is, or communist. And at the end of it, one of the person who was speaking was like, "How old are you guys?" And the guy said 18. Now this is a 29, 30-year-old person who probably would be the head of year or like whatever. And he was like, "Are you guys?" He was, why am I here? Like, what? This is not to say that they're idiots or anything, but it's like that's just that conversation shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
In the real world, if an 18-year-old came to me and said that, we all should be coming, so I'd go, all right, good. I wouldn't go, no, you listen to, like, why would I be learning?
The nuances of that person would instruct how you talk to them. So whether that be you ignore them or you're like, okay, I understand why you're there because I was there, etc. But like when Prince Philip died, an 18-year-old girl tweeted something along the lines of, like, guys, be nice, sort of thing. I can't remember the exact words, but everyone flung her. Like, they were onto her, that they were on her throat. And it was in her bio, her age. And my thing was like, okay, I'm not saying, sorry, she didn't even say give grace. I think she compared it to the death of someone else as well. And she's wrong. She's wrong. Fair. Do you know what I'm saying? But the smoke season I saw, I was like, yo, this doesn't happen in real life. Like, if I say this in a conversation, I'm not going to get 30 people jump on me. And I guess that's partly why I also say to people, you need to have friends and group chats. But also, everyone's judging everyone on social media as if to say they're at their level. They're like, I always see the notion that, hey, at that age, I was already da-da-da. It's like, okay, fair, that's you. Do you know what I'm saying? But that's not how grace works. Like, I'm aware there's certain mistakes I've never made. Never. I see certain people get cancelled things on social media. I've never made those mistakes. But they have. Do you know what I'm saying? And there's a level of grace I have to give. And of course, I'm not against people getting smoked. I'm not against it at all. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a free world. I just think people need to be more just more aware of what they're doing. It's just weird.
I think that's a great note to go out on, man, because we definitely need more of it. My pastor would say, we are human beings, right? We're still being transformed, we're still becoming, it's a modal thing. So to judge people and be so definitive about people's learning is a problem. And I guess it goes two ways as well, doesn't it? Because you get people who are so obnoxious online, you want them to go through a kind of, you want someone to kind of get them.
I saw someone DM me trying to get me cancelled by accident.
Yeah,
as in they accidentally sent me what they wanted me to go for.
No way.
It's still my life. And I retweeted it onto the timeline.
Probably don't.
No, it wasn't a big deal. Like, I don't have anything cancelable. I retweeted it back on the timeline. No one said anything. It's like,
this is the thing as well. Like, when I look at people like Ricky Gervais, or I look at people like Bill Burr, comedians typically, these people, you can't cancel them because they own it.
Yeah,
they own everything they've done. They're like, yep. And they've got a fan base, quite frankly, of people who are just kind of like not doing it. I mean, recently, and I'm aware this is one of the longest podcasts we've done. It was literally been to about 35.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I'm trying to make sure, it's good, and I think folks might enjoy it because recently, this might be a sensitive topic, but I'm what the heck, I'm going to talk about it. You had what's his name? What's his name now? Leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer. See how easily I forget his name?
Oh, sick, the conservative guy that on Labour. Yeah, sick.
Yeah. But see how easily I forget his name. This is the leader of the opposition.
He's a bum, man.
Well, let's not get into that. So, and you might not even like him further after this story because he goes to Jesus House, which is a church in London, in central London, North London rather. And he goes there because they've become a vaccine center. It's a black majority church. It's a Pentecostal church, one of the kind of biggest ones, most prominent ones, I would say, in the UK. And ex-visitors are Theresa May, the ex-prime minister when she was prime minister. All sorts of politicians have been there. Even the Prince Charles has been there. They got him to go a day after the Harry and Meghan interview, but there's no coincidence there. Anyways, so Sir Keir Starmer goes to visit, puts a video on his Twitter saying, love Jesus House and the work they're doing, helping, reduce COVID vaccine hesitancy in the Black community. Tick. And then some left-wing activists, for the most part, start quote tweeting the tweet to say that this church is anti-LGBTQ, this church supports conversion therapy, this church, and then they all just start laboring on. Thousands of people literally just, yeah, how dare you? Do you hate the LGBTQ community? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Sir Keir Starmer then took 3 days, which someone helpfully pointed out. It was longer than it took Jesus to rise from the dead. He then took that time. He came back and then he said, I'm so sorry for any offense I've caused. I didn't know that Jesus House is anti-LGBTQ and whatever. I disagree with their stance. And then he deletes his tweet. So obviously, Jesus House then comes back and goes, oh no, we're not anti-LGBT. Like, wait, what? Kind of thing. And they then, they push back that, as Christians, we're not anti anybody. Like, we've got a number of those folks in our church, and we're not for conversion therapy. Where does this come from, right?
Yeah.
Now the issue is because Pastor Agu, who's the person who leads the church, and the church for the most part maintain the kind of traditional or orthodox, whatever you want to call it, view of marriage between man and woman. I think that was the kind of thing that made people go, this is not a thing. So literally, because he was about to be cancelled, quote unquote, he deletes his tweet, capitulates and apologizes. But then whilst doing that, he leaves out this massive group who go, but like, we didn't do anything. We're Christians. That's it.
What you're saying essentially is going back to the thing I said, that I think in the future, there's certain things that people think are positive that are going to rip them in the future. And by that, there's even certain things that but with regards to that, like, I don't know, I've never been to Jesus House, I've different ones, I've never heard about it. I don't know what their stance is on LGBTQIA plus community, but what I do know is, so let's say they, like, again, I don't want to speak on something I don't know the truth about, but let's say hypothetically they don't support conversion therapy. All it takes is the loudest and the majority to say they do. That's how social media works. And that's Keir Starmer more than anyone understands that, because he plays the majority game, even though he loses all the time. But he plays that game, and I think politicians do in general. I have a poem where I say, if you want to know what a politician thinks, if you want to know what two politicians think about each other and put them against each other, that's all you have to do. You saw it with I think it was Boris, and I can't remember the guy that's now under him. No.
You mean in the same party?
Yeah. I can't remember who he went up against. I think it was.
Oh, you mean, well, at a time it was Jeremy Hunt, and then you had you mean for the leadership? Yeah, it was. I mean, Boris won. He was always going to win. Like, there was.
Yeah, but more importantly, let's just base it on. Okay, let's say they don't support conversion therapy. Again, I don't know if they do, but if that's the case, then regardless of the fact that he could have done his research, you have access to them. You have 3 days to literally ask them, Google it, whatever. I don't know how you'd find it out. You could have combated it by saying, hey, I don't agree with this part of their stance, but this part that you're saying exists doesn't exist, and I'm against that myself. But because people pressured him,
it's such a shame, though, because if at the highest kind of echelons of political power, you can't even kind of take a nuanced stance on social media, for me it's a wrap. Because if he can't do that, because as you said, like, he was at a mosque a few weeks earlier. He's been to Sikh temples. Like, it's well known, and he was visiting this place because it was a vaccine center. He wasn't going there to sit down, and he's not running for Pope. He's going. So for me, it's like social media is such a terrible place to conduct those conversations, especially when they're nuanced. That for me, I just think all I can say is we all just need to give a lot more grace. I've been guilty of jumping to conclusions, typing out a tweet before I kind of go. I do that all the time. One of my most frequent actions is type, and I go, I'll delete it. Because I'm like, I don't need to put this out there because we just have to be more gracious. But
I'm sorry to cut you because I know you're saying we're taking too long.
You're good. You're
good. But I think what also people have to remember is that the social media is a game of averages, and then people get caught on it becomes infectious. And by that, what I mean is, something I had to question myself about recently is like, if I do put my viewpoints out, of course they're going to be people that disagree with me, especially depending on the realm you're in. You brought up perfect examples in Bill Burr and Ricky Gervais. When you're that consistent in your viewpoints, eventually you'll find your hive. So, for instance, I have friends who are famous, celeb, sort of clear, but they will never get cancelled for the things you may get cancelled for or the things I may get cancelled for. The reason being is the brand that they've built has meant that they're now surrounded by majority people that agree with them. So, for instance, I might have a friend who's like who doesn't agree with I'm not saying I do, but let's say for argument's sake, I have a friend that doesn't agree with BLM, yeah, as a organization, yeah. So actually, I'll even throw myself. I'm not excited over BLM, the organization. I understand the premise of the concept, but as an organization, it doesn't intrigue me. And the difference, I guess, back in the days in the 60s and etc., was you could choose which organization that you felt represented you to push forward. You had, your Martin, your Malcolm. If you was against Martin, it didn't mean he was anti-black. If you was against Malcolm, it didn't mean he was anti-black. It's just a different school of thought.
Yeah.
But let's say, for instance, you have BLM, and let's say there's another organization called BLLM, whatever.
Yeah.
If the majority of your tweets are consistently about BLLM, eventually your followers are going to look like that because those are the people that are going to find you. But what tends to happen is we're playing a game of averages. People are humans are sheep. I'm a sheep to some degree. I don't know in what, but there's more than likely something I'm a sheep in. Yeah. When people start seeing the narrative that is being perpetuated as just right, no reasoning behind it. I always say to my friends that social media has become sort of the highlights of certain specialist topics, psychology, economics, politics. Like, these are topics individually people spend their entire life studying. And social media sort of become like, hey, let me have this one aspect. Let's talk about just gaslighting when it impacts me, rather than delving into the entirety of manipulation and how you also contribute to it. Hey, let's get into politics and how the right wing are racist, and let's just ignore like how sort of left wing leaders in history sort of had stances against black people. But remember that one time in the 80s where they sort of offered our parents hope, and people are sort of just like attaching themselves onto the things that they sort of are just seeing as quote unquote good. So then once you come with your viewpoint, that majority you're sort of onto you. So I think, yeah, to people, be consistent with your views. Have friends like me. Yay, friends.
I make a group chat. I think the group chat idea is brilliant. I don't have one. I have multiple group chats, but I don't have one where I used to kind of test out tweets. But then again, I think I'm quite vanilla. Unfortunately, I think I probably need to become a bit more, No, I do.
Once you get a group chat, listen.
But you know what it is? It's also about your history, because I've spent so long in church and just kind of like in these positions that, and when I say positions, I mean like representative positions where I'm representing a group of folks, and so you kind of just learn how to be very careful and to kind of to advocate. To advocate. I'm very cool with advocacy and representing views and going, here's what the majority of folks believe, here's what they believe, but you don't have to kind of come and go, this is what I think, because that's what you might get in trouble.
That's where it becomes problematic. Yeah.
But no, Nego, it's been great, man. I mean, clearly we don't have enough time because there's so much more so many more tabs I want to open. I want to speak about, for instance, the future of the royal family, especially now that Prince Philip is dead. The bridge is down is the code name for his death. Meghan and Harry, not about them per se, but about, what does a modern monarchy look like and how should we interact? I've been seeing a lot of conversations. This may be the next episode about, black people shouldn't take honors from the Queen, you know, and how we need to structurally pull away, and the whole structure. I'm gonna get someone really interesting on for that. I might get a Lord on for that, and have conversations about it. But this has been so pleasant, man. This has been so good, and I think there's uber value in this, lots of value, and I hope folks listening will go on. What is it now? I don't have the note. LTCS podcast. That's the one. Twitter.
You didn't remember the name of your podcast?
This I do remember the name, but it's the socials. It's the socials. So it's LTCS podcast. I do now. Online. Because we've got lots of cool episodes coming up. Last week's was great with Femi. Who will be back soon, no doubt. And Nego, I think you're going to be back soon as well, man.
Yeah, hopefully.
I hope this was enjoyable somewhat for you.
No, it was very much so.
Superb. Well, thank you. Well, before we go, actually, where can we have to do this? Where can people find? I feel like when people say that, I'm like, when you have in the digital age, just type the name online.
Yeah, people that's like, it, man. Nego True everywhere. Just YouTube, Spotify, the albums coming, all of that. You know the vibes. You know the vibes.
I saw someone was like, it's M_air on Instagram, and on Facebook. I was like, bro, we'll find you.
Nah, we'll find you. The algorithm's with me. Nego True everywhere. You can probably even phone that number. Do you know what I'm saying? It's Nego True. All right.